Ever since the stunning Fractal Terra released, with its beautiful compact design, including flip-up panels, wooden front, and even a great jade colour option, plus a spine that you can move to adjust the size of your CPU and GPU chambers depending on your component choices, I've desperately wanted to build in one. But two things have always put me off. One, everyone else in the world seems to be either building them or making videos on them. And two, I've read a lot of problems on the forums with turbulence when you're using the wrong components in this case. So today, in this video, I want to build a powerful Ryzen 9 12-core CPU with a 4080 Super, perfect for content creation and 4K gaming, but with the challenge of making it quiet enough to sit on my desk without bothering me. So with that in mind, let's get building. Now obviously we've chose the Jade version of the Terra. It does also come in silver or black, which both do also look good, but I think this one looks absolutely stunning. I also love the wooden front section. It gives it a very unique look, plus we do get the USB-C and USB-A ports, which are handy on the front of a case. Now working in this case is a breeze. The flip-up panels are handy for maintenance, but they are also easy to remove when you want to actually build in the case. And the top panel just slides backwards and pulls straight off, allowing you complete access to everything inside of here. Now the spine is secured from the top and the bottom with screws, and you have 7 options, allowing you to choose from anywhere from a large GPU with a small CPU cooler to a large CPU cooler with a slim GPU. This does mean that you can get some large graphic cards in this case, but you will limit your CPU options, especially as it does need to be air-cooled. Now with regards to the fans, there isn't also a lot of room for extra fans in this case once you've actually populated it. You can fit in a 120mm fan in the base. Now we've chosen the Noctua 120x15 with a fan guard to help with the cable management. As mentioned, this is going to be using a Ryzen 9 12-core 24-thread CPU, and we've picked the 7900 Non-X as they're incredibly efficient that you could easily get the 7900X and tweak it to the same level of performance if you preferred. They're very similarly priced. I wouldn't recommend going for the 9900X at the moment because they're so much more expensive for a pretty much same level of performance. And to cool it, we're going to be using the Thermalright AXP90-47 full copper. This cooler is only 47mm in height and gives us plenty of room for a large GPU, but this cooler punches well above its weight given its size and its price. Now all the links for all these components will be in the description down below. If you want to pick any of these up, it really does help support our channel at no extra cost to you, and we do really appreciate it. Okay, anyway, let's put that CPU and heatsink onto the motherboard, and as usual, we're going to be using our favourite Asus ROG B650i-E. I just can't find another well-priced motherboard in that B650 ITX range with all the features that this board has. So with the CPU in the socket and the retention arm locked into place, it's time to install the AXP90. Now you need to remove the original AMD retention clips and then put a nice blob of thermal paste onto the CPU. You then lower down the AXP heatsink onto that CPU, putting the threads through the AMD mounting holes. Then holding that cooler into place, flip over your motherboard, apply the back retention plate and the 4 retention nuts. Now I do like to screw these down evenly so that the paste spreads across that CPU. Then turn the motherboard back over, apply the fan onto the top and plug in the fan connector. Next I'm going to add an SSD, and I'm going to be using a 2TB Western Digital SN850X in the primary M.2 slot. Now if you do want to add a second M.2 SSD at this stage, do it now, because once you put the motherboard into the case, you can't reach the back of the motherboard to plug this little SSD in. And then lastly, we're going to be installing 32GB of Fury 6000 RAM. Now you can get this with or without RGB, but personally I want a clean look, and this Jade is stunning, so I don't think RGB is going to fit in with this case, so we have gone for the non-RGB version. So with our motherboard built up, it's time to lower it into the case, install the 4 screws, front header, fan and USB cables in readiness for the PSUs. So now let's remove the PSU bracket with just the 2 screws. Now something I do like with this case is they provide you with spacers to push that PSU closer to the front panel. This is really handy as a lot of modern graphics cards have a flow-through rear fan, and this gives us a little bit more breathing room between the actual graphics card and the PSU, because without the spacers they're pretty much almost touching. And for this build we've chosen the Corsair SF750. And although you can cram an SFXL into this case, it'd be incredibly tight, so we went for just the standard SFX. Now Corsair have just released a 2024 version of the SF750, 850 and 1000, which does use their new smaller connectors and includes the 12 VHPWR cables for the graphics card. But because I own the older version of the SF750, I've bought the Corsair cable for the actual PSU for the graphics card because I absolutely hate the PSU converter cable supplied with the graphics cards. It's bulky, it's ugly, and it makes using it in an ITX case difficult to say the least. So with the 24-pin and 8-pin cable connected and the new 12 VHPWR cable connected to our PSU, we're ready to apply it to the actual plate. So we just put the screws on the plate to the PSU and then make sure that the spacers are installed before we screw that plate back into the Terra. We also make sure we plug in the mains, and please make sure your PSU is powered on. Then plug in the 24-pin and 8-pin motherboard power connectors and keep the GPU cable out of the way for when we've installed our graphics card. And as we wanted to go for a 4080 Super, we chose the Asus ProArt version. This is a good looking, compact 4080 Super that's only 2.5 slots. It's not overly tall and has no RGB. Perfect for a build like this. Not only does it fit in this case easily, but there's plenty of room around it to breathe and cable manage. And in leaving it on the default slot 4 section on the case gave us a good air gap on either side of both the CPU and the GPU to eliminate any turbulence. So let's flip down these side panels, pop on the top covers and start testing it. So here we are on the gaming desk, and for this build I'm using a 32-inch 4K 144Hz mini LED screen. Gaming at 4K looks absolutely stunning, and I also find the 32-inch 4K display great for productivity. Now I ran through my usual games that I play at 4K, and I was surprised at not only how well they actually play at the 4K, but just how well the temps were totally under control. The R9 7900 pulls about 90 watts without any tweaking, but I did apply a -20 PBO to squeeze a bit of free performance out of that processor. Now in games, it was usually sitting at about 5.4 GHz, and in a Cinebench R23 All-Core Torture test, all the cores were well over 4.2 GHz, which shows you how efficient these AMD chips are. Now with regards to the actual 4080 Super ProArt, despite being such a compact card, the temps remain cool, even when pulling over 300 watts. And these are stock settings, I've not even undervolted the card yet. And having that space either side of the system eliminated all the turbulence in this case, allowing the system to run at a quiet 38 decibels whilst I was heavily gaming at 4K. Overall, I am incredibly impressed with how well this build has turned out, and just how well the Terra looks and performs if you plan your build well. Now obviously, if you try and cram in a huge 4090 or 7900 XTX in here, you're going to have a fun time. But with sensible components, you can have a cool, quiet build capable of work and play that also looks great on your desks. So there we go, that's our build with a Fractal Terra with an Nvidia 4080 Super and an R9 12-core processor. This system is an absolute beast, and it also looks great on your desk. And as always, I'd love to know what you guys think of this actual system. And if you've got any ideas for future builds, as always, pop it down below and I will get back to you. And lastly, thanks for watching.